All right, welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Bernd. Evan, how we doing?
We're doing well. Basketball is back. I'm excited.
Basketball is back. Bucks 12 straight wins, I believe it is.
13.
13.
Yeah, 13 now after the win on Friday.
Even better. Milwaukee 13 straight wins after a 128-99 dismantling of the Miami Heat on Friday night. We'll get to that in a moment, but first, we're going to talk about the All-Star festivities from this past weekend. There was the skills challenge, the dunk contest, three-point contest, and, of course, the game itself. Evan, my question to you is, what event stood out to you the most?
I mean, I love the All-Star break. I love it every year, but this one sucked. I really like the dunk contest. I think adding Mac McClung was good. For the dunk contest in general, because usually that one's the worst one out of all the other ones, and now it kind of flipped this year. But if you followed him like in high school and stuff, he had some flashy dunks like that in high school, but I really liked that. I think he did well, and some of the other guys did well too. There were a couple guys who were like, you're there kind of thing. You're better. You're still more athletic than I am, but there were some dunks that like really stood out in that one. But otherwise, I think everything else was not that good.
I agree with you on that. I think the most exciting event was the slam dunk contest because I think everybody for years knew who Mac McClung was.
Yep. If you didn't, then you're living under a rock in the basketball world.
Yeah, he's the same age as me, I believe. I'm
24. Like a year younger.
Yeah, and you're about a year younger than him. You're 25. So I've been watching Mac McClung since high school, and that guy's always had bounce. So those dunks that he pulled off weren't overly surprising. The 3-point contest, that was kind of predictable. It's like you just kind of knew. Like I really knew as soon as Damian Lillard finished round one, I was like, oh, he's gonna win.
Yep.
There's no doubt in my mind that Damian Lillard was. He first of all, he's probably one of the best deep 3-ball shooters. I would go NBA history right now. I don't think maybe I will put Steph Curry number one, but Damian Lillard for sure should be up there.
Underrated.
Just the amount of shots he's made, especially in that playoffs. Even go back to the shot he made against OKC. He's probably one of the best in the league. And I think the key for succeeding in the 3-point contest, and guys like Draymond and Kenny Smith brought it up, is that even Reggie Miller, is that if you jump too far, like you're not going to have any legs left. Guys who rely on their legs to shoot didn't have any success. You looked at Tyler Hero and Julius Randle, even Kevin Huerter.
Yeah,
those guys didn't have success in the 3-point contest because they jumped too far. They got tired out. It's an event where you don't need that much lift. And that's why those guys weren't as successful. Damian Lillard, of course, just put up a miraculous performance, and not overly surprising one. I think the biggest disappointing event in the All-Star weekend was the skills challenge.
Oh, God.
That thing was so hard to watch. Look, I love me some Antetokounmpo brothers, okay? But I feel like even if Giannis were in
exactly that. Honestly, I think Drew helped them better than I think Giannis would have been.
Yeah. I mean, look, there is a reason why Thanasis doesn't play that much and why Alex is in the G League.
Correct.
That is why. Look, I understand they're related to Giannis, okay? But Thanasis is not a very good shooter.
No.
Okay? And I'm trying to be nice when I say that. He's not, okay? He's not known for making threes. He'll make the occasional flash play, but I don't want him. I can safely say that I don't want him shooting.
It was the second challenge where they had to shoot at the different numbers. They almost won by making 2 baskets.
That was so tough to watch. And both of us predicted that the rookies would win, and the rookies put up an awful showing.
Uh-huh.
The Utah Jazz won that event with 13 points. 13 points. Like, it was so disappointing. And I know I said last week that I would like to see Lauri Markkanen be in there. Well, Lauri Markkanen could have been that event because he, of course, was in the 3-point shooting contest. So that was my bad on that one. But other than that, I mean, slam dunk contest, it's not going to be fully back until they can get noteworthy names.
Yes.
Your Ja Morant, your Zion Williamsons, those are the type of guys that I think need, even Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, some of those, it's the flashy guys that they want, and they don't want to do it.
No, Anthony Edwards was like, I'm not doing the dunk contest. Ja Morant is like, I don't want to do the dunk contest. Mac McClung, I would love to see him back because
I think he'll do it again.
And again, based on how the last year's dunk contest went, you could really only go up from there.
Yeah.
Because none of the guys made their dunks, and yet they had to pick out a winner. So Obi Toppin ended up winning. But yeah, it wasn't like you could only go up, and Mac McClung for sure brought the dunk contest back. I understand what people were thinking that, it's not being the All-Star game in the All-Star weekend festivities not as special anymore because a lot of those players aren't even in the All-Star game.
Yeah, they're just the participants. They're the lead up. It's like the Pro Bowl where it's like all the guys are the Pro Bowl guys. They're just doing different games. World Series, the All-Star for the world or for baseball. I don't know why I keep saying World Series, but yeah, it's like a lot of the guys who are doing it are the ones already in the All-Star game. Home Run Derby is a little different just because
True.
He's got the power hitters.
And then you move to the like the All-Star game itself. That was not a good game at all. It was just all right, well, these are vastly talented NBA players. Let's just screw it. Let's just let them cook. And it was that way the whole entire game.
And it was boring.
Yeah, it was boring. It used to be like, okay, you knew like through the first 3 quarters they weren't going to play any defense.
And then the fourth hit, and
they still didn't play any defense.
Yeah, I used to be like competitive with a little more defense. Obviously, there were still like flashier plays, but like this one was like they just walked right to the basket and the layup. I'm like, no one wants to see a layup and no one wants to see you just chuck up threes. That's boring. That's a Bucks game.
Yeah, that's and Jason Tatum scored 55 points and nobody cared.
Yeah.
Not an ounce, not one person cared about the fact that Jason Tatum scored 55 because it was just I don't know what it was. At some point, it just turned into nobody was playing defense, and then Damian Lillard just chuck up a half-court shot.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I understand why they don't like play defense anymore in the All-Star game. It's because there's a lot of money tied to these guys, and they don't want to get hurt.
Yeah, right? That's why a lot of guys don't do the dunk contest either. They don't want to do that unexpected injury.
Yeah, and the days of Dwayne Wade breaking Kobe Bryant's nose in the All-Star game, those days are long gone, guys. And I think what made that particular All-Star game lose its luster, the one I'm talking about this year, is that Giannis and LeBron didn't finish the game.
Exactly.
Obviously, both of us talked about last week about how, should Giannis play in the All-Star game? Well, he played for about 3 minutes, and then he was like, deuces.
Yeah, he got his basket and left.
And LeBron, the same thing. LeBron
got hurt in the game.
Yeah, he got it on a block attempt. He got his finger caught in the rim, so he was like, screw this. I'm not doing it. So both the captains who in the All-Star game just didn't finish the game. So look, there's a lot of money tied to it. Is there a way to fix the event? Probably not. I think the NBA has a lot more things to worry about. Like, I just don't think you can just make these guys just play defense anymore.
No,
I don't. There's, the All-Star game just kind of has always been that way. Like, this isn't like we're not in the 90s anymore. Okay, it has to. At this point, it just is what it is.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you would like to see a little more competition because those are like the best players in the entire world, and you want to see like a little competitive pickup game. It's like a pickup game outdoor at like the local basketball court. It's like you're picking your teams. We're gonna run with who we got, and then we want a little competitive game. But yeah, when you're walking right to the hoop every possession, or Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are playing a one-on-one for 4 straight or 5 straight possessions. It's like, this is dumb.
Yeah, it was.
All the other guys are just like standing in like the wing, and then they're playing one-on-one. I'm like, okay, like maybe do that, but with everyone playing. Like they were playing lockdown defense on each other. I was like, this is what people want to see, but not one-on-one and 2 Celtics players.
Yeah, and that's the element Giannis would have been able to provide because, you know, in the All-Star game, he tries way too hard.
Yep. He acts like it's Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
So that's why I'm glad that he was like, you know what, my wrist just hurts too much. I can't do this. And speaking of his wrist, that turned out to be not a serious injury at all. He did get hurt in the game against the Heat, but we'll obviously get to that in a little bit. The other thing is Michael Malone, the Nuggets coach, called it one of the worst one of the worst basketball games like I've ever. It's just
to coach and all that.
Yeah,
it was. I don't blame him.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
To be honored to coach the All-Star game for that, it's like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to do it. All right, guys, just go do it. Like, what are you supposed to like do? How are you? You don't need a coach for that. Like, to be honest, you can sub each other in.
They should be able. Yeah, they should be able to do that.
Yeah. The coach and the assistants for the All-Star game is obscure.
Yeah, again, it's just nothing you can do. It's just how a new generation of basketball players thinks nowadays. It's like everything is tied to their next bag. So, you know, it is what it is. It's good. It's going to be a fun event. I think more so the events taking place on Friday and Saturdays are going to be a lot more exciting, more so than the game on Sunday. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Next up, so Milwaukee was active in the buyout market. John, so here's the thing with that. So I don't even know. So they didn't get this particular player from the buyout market. He was a free agent, and then they just signed
into a 10-day.
Yeah. So they signed former Heat center and former Blazers center Meyers Leonard to a 10-day contract. He was unemployed, Evan, really largely for 2 reasons. So he hadn't played in 776 days, really since January 2021 with the Heat. He had to undergo ankle surgery. And while he was undergoing his ankle surgery, and then while he was in rehab and while he was away from the team, he, while on a live stream, said a derogatory term for Jewish people. And after the Bucks signed him, there was a lot of, there was just a lot of hate, a lot of like, why are we doing this? Coming at John Horst. I guess, where was your reaction when they first signed him, and did your, I guess, feelings all change after you kind of heard about like the derogatory term?
To be honest, when they signed him, I kind of forgot about like him as a player. Like not like that he was like suspended from the NBA or not, but like he's just like one of those like under the radar kind of guys where it's like, oh yeah, like you were in the NBA once. It was a little interesting just because I kind of forgot about that situation because it was so long ago, and then once I heard the name and kind of remembered, I was like, oh yeah, like he was the guy who said this. I'm one of those people where it's like, it depends on the situation. I think how you like take the punishment that you get. There are some guys who will take a punishment and then will continue to do it, but I read a little more on him, and it looks like he was like spending time with like Jewish rabbis and like talk with people like in the Jewish community to like make it to show like he's like apologetic for it. Now that could be like a thing to just show that like, yep, I'm doing things to like do better, or he's doing it just to like show that he was like, yep, here I am, like a fake kind of. But I think he's more apologetic for it. I'm not too worried just like about like some of the hate, but it was a random signing, you know. It was I think what was random about it again is that he was a free agent rather than like one of the buyout guys, but He didn't do too bad.
No, he didn't. And look, the only thing I'm going to call BS on him about is that, I didn't know what that word meant.
Yeah.
When you say that word, you know what it means.
That's not, it's not just like a random word.
And here's the thing. The next thing I'm about to say is going to be a little out there. I think everybody, when they play video games, okay, because it was on a live stream, I think it's unfortunate, okay? I've done this too, okay? I think a lot of people say offensive things when they play video games. It's not what you feel in your heart of hearts, but when you just get so mad about something, it's just, and you're kind of by yourself or you're alone, you do have a tendency to say offensive things. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying it does happen. I don't know why it happens. You get mad about something, and it's just some people, when they play video games, can't control their emotions. I've never been able to. Okay. So I'm not sitting here saying it's right. I do think it looked worse for him because he's, first of all, he's a professional basketball player, and he was, he was on a live stream. So it's like stuff like that could kind of get picked up. But on the other hand, I do believe in second chances. And I do believe that, hey, if you say a word like that, what are you going to do to make it right? He didn't do the typical white guy thing, which was go down a notes app and apologize. He's like, no, this is what I have to do to make it better. And you're right. He met with Jewish leaders. He met with everyone you're supposed to meet with to kind of, he even attended they call it a Shabbat dinner. Hope I got that right.
I think so. Yeah.
So he did all those things. He went above and beyond to be like, oh my, what did I just say? And he did everything in his power to make it right. I think everybody wants to be. I think everybody nowadays is like, you make a mistake. It's like nowadays, like everybody has to be reminded of what they did in their past. That's why I feel like sometimes is that, whatever. That people, you can't necessarily run away from their past, but I don't think people should also have to be reminded of their past, because I think everybody makes mistakes. I don't think anybody's perfect, but I think what you do in the future, I think is a lot more important than what happened in the past. So, and you're right, Meyers Leonard did not play bad in his debut. There were a couple things, because I wrote a blog about kind of assessing Meyers Leonard's performance, and I'll just kind of talk about it real quick, and then we'll get to the game. Is that I think Meyers Leonard played about as well as you could play for a guy who hasn't played in 2 years.
Yep.
He made a three, and he shot a couple free throws, but there were a couple of things like I don't think he's good in the pick and roll quite yet, and that was mainly about it. I mean, Bam Adebayo did expose him, scoring him a couple times, but like Bam Adebayo is probably one of the more, I'd say, top 7 big men in the NBA. I guess.
Yeah, I'd agree.
He's pretty good. So again, he looked good. I'm not jumping up on the table saying we need to sign this guy the rest of the season.
Agreed. Yes.
Because we just kind of have to see how he performs in the rest of his appearances. Because again, he only gets 10 days.
I was at the game, and there was a guy behind us when he was getting into the game, and he was like, "Why did we get Meyers Leonard?" Because he was so confused, because it was something that happened so below the radar. I was like, oh yeah, it was just a 10-day, it wasn't a for sure thing. He's like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, I never heard of it yet. But yeah, it was a weird signing, but he played about 15 minutes, 5 points, 6 rebounds. Was I mean, you're not gonna ask him to drop 20 points and 10 rebounds, so.
No, and that's the other thing I put in my blog is that he's not going to be an offensive weapon for us.
Yeah,
we're not expecting him to be. I mean, look, sometimes those moves just happen. Those moves when we get Greg Monroe when we got him last year. It's when did Greg Monroe come back?
He came back for a little bit.
No, and the thing was, when Greg Monroe came on the Bucks, I didn't realize then they let his 10-day contract expire. So I was like, wait, I haven't seen Greg Monroe in a while. I was always on like the Capital City Go-Go of the G League. I was like, when did that happen? I thought I mean, like, there's a lot of people who are like, hey, we should bring back DeMarcus Cousins. And I'm like, no, we shouldn't.
Yeah, and he tweeted out something where it was like, when the Bucks signed Meyers Leonard, he tweeted out like, I forgot what he did, but it was like to make it seem like, how did this guy get picked before I did? I gotta find that. It was like, okay.
Well, DeMarcus.
Oh, wow. ...
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, Evan, both of us watched the DeMarcus Cousins era last year, and I can speak for that. Well, when you can only play like 15 minutes and provide nothing on defense, like DeMarcus Cousins is one of the worst pick and roll defenders like I've probably ever seen. And when you can't run up and down the court, and I get it, he's had injuries, but you can't run up and down the court for like 15 minutes or whatever. It's like you have no use for us.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'm like, that's exactly what happened. Yeah, sure. DeMarcus Cousins could provide a little bit offensively, but he's not going to provide you anything defensively anymore. And even before the injury, he wasn't like a dominant, defensive center. Like, I think in that area, like Meyers Leonard provides more than DeMarcus Cousins would have.
Yeah, I'd agree on that one. He used to be insane. But yeah, after the injuries, he was kind of a 10 points kind of guy if he was lucky.
Yeah, and again, Mike Budenholzer is you're not gonna be on his team if you can't play defense. Like it's just as simple as that. So let's get to the slaughtering of the Miami Heat. Really, there's the only noteworthy thing. So they played on Friday night, ESPN 128-99 Milwaukee. I think I got to bring this up first. I think the thing that we were concerned about most was Giannis's injury.
Yes.
So here's the rare thing. So Giannis went out in the end of the first or maybe the second.
He only played 6 minutes. I think it was the first.
Yeah. So he played a little bit, came out, went back in, and then basically 2 minutes later, he was like,
yep, timeout. I got to go.
Just take me out. So he went to the locker room. And they're saying he knocked knees with someone. Now, yes. I actually went back and rewatched the game, and there were a couple instances where he knocked knees with someone. Again, you don't know if it's like a thing that kind of, you know, if that was a thing that kind of just built up, or if because it wasn't really. You didn't really know when the injury occurred. So and he's not going to play today. I think I could safely say.
Yeah, I was really hoping he would, especially if Kevin Durant plays, because Kevin Durant playing against Giannis and then with Jay Crowder on this, this would have been an amazing game. But yeah, a lot of people's like, oh, he just has to go to the bathroom, and he walked very fast. I'm like, nah, he's hurt. And once he didn't come back to the bench, I knew it was more of an injury. But yeah, hitting knees against someone is never a fun injury. So I'm hoping it's not long term where it's you sit him a game or two and then hope he's back. I'm sure it's just gonna end up being a bruised knee where it just hurts the bend because it's on your joint. But we'll see. I hope Pat can come back then, but they again were able to hold it down without him.
You got that right. How about the performance that really stood out to me was Bobby Portis. First game back from an MCL sprain, dropped in 18 points.
Yeah, 18-11, another double-double, leads the league in double-doubles off the bench. Yeah, I was glad to have him back. Chris Middleton was back too, a 12, 4, and 5 game. So again, pretty solid. Again, some of those solid bench stat lines. Jay Crowder got the ovation of he was a god. It was cool to see him come in. Played 16 minutes, so again, pretty high number minutes for him. Had a had 2 3-pointers. One looked like a foul, but that's all right. Again, 9-3, played some pretty good defense, had a steal. So it was like, again, he's not one of those trades where it's like he's got to drop over 20 points. He's like the next PJ Tucker, where if he can score, that's awesome. But like we're here for his defense. But I want to say AJ Green has an insane amount of potential, and I feel like so many people like aren't looking at that. People are going to be like, oh, he shot 2 for 5 on threes. But him shooting 2 for 5 on threes, 2 of them rimmed in and out. And his other one are just like a really close make. Like it like just missed. Where it's like his confidence in shooting is already like he'll take the shot. He feels comfortable with the shot already. And his shots are like so close. If he can like build up like a more consistent shot, I think he could be an insane sharpshooter. He's not a guy who's going to be getting rebounds. He gets a couple assists, but like he could be one of those guys where he could make like 3 or 4 3-pointers and consistently. And I feel like not a lot of people like recognize that in his shot. Like it's so close. It's so close. And I want him to like become one of those like Kyle Korver kind of players. I'm going to compare him to Korver. Like obviously not like that's where he's at right now, but like he has the potential to be that off the pick, hit and shoot kind of guy, because that's who Korver was. He wasn't a driver. He was, I'm going to catch it, I'm going to shoot it. And I think he has the potential to be that kind of player, but he just has to get that shot, and it's so close to getting there, and I really hope they can keep him and then develop that. It's so close, and it looks so good.
I have a pound on the table for almost 2 months saying I think AJ Green deserves more playing time.
Yeah, not a lot of people recognize it.
The reason why I don't think he gets a lot of playing time is just for the simple fact he's not very good on defense.
Yes.
And I think that, and I saw Eric Name, covers the Bucks for The Athletic, kind of mentioned this, is like, if he can even be like an average defender, we're not even talking about like a lockdown defender like Drew Holiday is. If he can even be like an average defender, I think he could carve out like a nice little like NBA career for himself.
Yep.
Because the thing is like, I've said this before. I said the same thing about DeMarcus Cousins. The same goes for AJ Green, and the same even went for Jordan Noor. Is if you cannot play a lick of defense, you're not going to be on the floor for Milwaukee. It's as simple as that. That's why, like, even when Milwaukee brought in Kyle Korver, he didn't play that much in the playoff because he couldn't play a lick of defense. And it's really hard to ask like pure shooters like that to be like good defenders.
Yep.
It's just not in their DNA. All they've known all their basketball life is how to knock down threes. Like I don't know what it is. I don't know if they weren't like taught how to play good defense. It's just when you build a niche for yourself, which includes like just knocking down threes and being able to shoot from deep. It's like, well, I don't really need to worry about defense.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like unfortunate just because the Jordan Noor situation. I know he had a really good game yesterday. Kind of a flirting with a triple-double. But again, there are some guys who are good players just on the wrong team. But there are some guys who are good when they get out there, but then they do 1 or 2 mistakes where it's like, all right, like you're not helping us as much anymore. If you're scoring 3 points, but you're giving it right back up, again, it's just like a cancel out where it's like, well, you did well on one side, but on the other side, it's like, it's not going to be beneficial on the floor.
Yeah, and you actually bring up a good point because that reminds me of Mamu, because Mamu is really good in the G League, but
insane in the G League,
insanely good in the G League. But you put him in an NBA game, it's just
he's never played basketball before.
That's what it looks like. And look, I know going into the season, a huge Mamu guy, but as I watch him, it's like I feel like they kind of know what they have in him. It's like like I think one of the reasons. So Milwaukee has one last roster spot, and they can either decide to give a standard contract to Mamu or AJ Green.
Yep.
I would give it to AJ Green right now.
I would too. 100%.
Because like Mamu, I feel like they know what they have in him. It's a guy who, yeah, he can shoot threes, but it's like he doesn't provide you anything in the low post. He's not like I actually think he's one of the guys who allows like a crap ton of offensive rebounds. Because it's just not his game to just clear the glass. Crash the boards, clear the glass. It's not. It's just not who he is, and and that happens sometimes. I don't know. Like it's just a different type of basketball where you're playing the G League. It's just, oh my god, this guy's putting up numbers, and all of a sudden you get to the NBA. It's just, all right, we got it.
Oh, send him back. Like he needs minutes, and then he gets the minutes, and he has 4 points, and he's 2 for 7.
Yeah, and again, that's the thing is I know all those players are vastly talented. It's just there are just some players who while they should be in the NBA, just aren't as good as the other players on the floor. But look, there was some good performances to go around. Brook Lopez, 17 points, 7 to 12 shooting. Milwaukee did shoot 48% from the field. 19 of 46 from deep, I believe it was.
Yep. Yeah, they were hitting them later in the game.
And I mean, look, if you want me to do a quick Heat recap, really the only person who played somewhat well was Jimmy Butler. And I guess if you want to throw Bam in there, fine. He had 18 points. I think Jimmy had, I believe, 24.
23, yeah.
No, but other than that, I mean, Miami just got a couple of players from, they got a couple of players from the buyout market, I guess. They got Cody Zeller, who, first of all, I'm surprised that Cody Zeller.
He didn't do too bad.
No, I like Cody Zeller, but he looks 45. Okay? I don't know.
He needs to shave that head. He needs to shave his head.
He needs to come home. Okay. I'm a huge college basketball fan, especially Big Ten basketball. I remember watching Cody Zeller at Indiana. He was really good. He used to have a mop. Now it's like, God, what's this? What's this janitor doing on the floor? He looks 45. I don't think I'm too early saying this. I think Kevin Love is washed.
First of all, I was going to mention about him. I was shocked that he started.
Yeah.
When I saw Kevin Love in the starting lineup, I was like, that's a little interesting move. But yeah, them adding him to their team added absolutely nothing. It was like a sign where it's like, I read a lot of like comments of like this post of like when he was signing to the Heat, and people were like, this isn't like who they need. Like this isn't someone who's like gonna make like a major impact. Now Kevin Love was pretty good, like off the bench guy. He could hit a couple threes games here or there, especially a couple years back when he was like in the prime Cavs years and his big body on the Timberwolves. But it was like a random signing where it's like it's not gonna add anything to your team. And if you're putting him in the starting lineup to go 0 for 4, that's crazy. He has 8 rebounds and 4 assists, but yeah, to shoot 4 3-pointers and miss all 4, like they weren't close shots either. There were some big bricks on that one.
No, and there was one that was like wide open, and he just it was a brick. Look, I think Cleveland knew at that point what they had in Kevin Love.
Yeah.
Like it's not like an overly like veteran team in Cleveland, and yet they didn't play him. And there's a reason they didn't play him is he can't knock down shots, okay, at the volume he used to, and he's not good on defense anymore.
I was gonna say he's like a Brook Lopez, just kind of slow in the paint. Guys are dunking on him here or there. LeBron dunking on him earlier in the year, but yeah, he was really good on Cleveland in their prime finals runs year, but yeah, it's getting a little older, getting a little slower.
Yeah, it happens. So that's why I think that I think he needs to transition back into fat Kevin Love, who rebounds 25 times a game.
Oof, that was an insane player.
Big Kevin Love, I'm telling you. But look, he's had a nice career. His jersey, according to Cavs GM Kobe Altman, will be retired.
Yep.
deservedly so.
Yep, very deserving.
But I don't know. That's what's sometimes sad about the buyout market is just, you get some of these players who you watch when you were kids, like,
we got Kevin Love, and then this is the Kevin Love that you're getting.
Like Derrick Rose is eventually going to be on the buyout market again, and I'm like, it's like now the Suns are interested in Derrick Rose. I'm like, that depresses me as a fan. Well, I watched Derrick Rose at his prime, his 3-year prime. He was one of the most electric players in the NBA, won an MVP. And then all of a sudden he tore one ACL and his career was never the same. So now he's like fighting for buyout jobs. The Phoenix Suns. I'm like, that upsets me. But I mean, and then Miami, like I heard like the NBA countdown crew kind of talk about like what's wrong with the Heat because they lost again 108-103 to Charlotte yesterday. They don't have a star. And I think that's their biggest problem is that, a lot of people want to anoint Jimmy Butler as he's like really, really good. But do you think like Jimmy Butler is more of like a postseason performer? I know I could put up numbers in the regular season, but it's like, it's like who are you afraid of from Miami?
They're very similar. The Cavs have like a similar idea with them. Obviously, the Cavs are a lot better than the Heat, but like just the idea of you got like the one like bigger name guy, and then you got some other guys too.
Yeah, and what makes me mad is that every time people talk about the Miami Heat, they're just like, oh, well, so they're going to fit into the Heat culture. I was like, okay, first of all, I think every NBA team has a culture, okay? I don't know what it means when they're like, oh, they're gonna fit into the Heat culture. I'm like, who's it? By who? So why don't you just say like Udonis has them still there? Because like that's literally where the culture comes from. Oh, they're gonna fit into that Heat culture. I'm like, but there's no culture without Udonis Haslam. So that doesn't make any sense. But look, the Heat just don't have much. Okay, they don't. Okay? Gabe Vincent didn't have as good of a game as he did when they played in Miami. Duncan Robinson
got a bag and dipped. He signed like an $80 million contract and played horrible.
And here's another thing to note, Evan. Duncan Robinson. He, for 2 or 3 years there, he had a podcast.
He did.
They haven't released an episode since August. Just gonna say it. Not every. Sometimes you try to dive too deep into the podcast game. If your play is not playing up to standard, you're gonna have to stop it. Like Draymond's stuck with the podcast game. But that's because he he's with TNT and he really cares about doing it. But I'm just saying when you're an active NBA player and you decide to do a podcast and your play is not and you're not playing up to standard, fans are going to be like, oh, well, he's probably thinking about his podcast.
Yeah, or the video games where the guys are like always streaming, like Simmons and all those guys, or even in the NFL when you talk about Kyler Murray and Call of Duty.
Yep.
It's like people are so quick to be like, oh, they're playing too many video games, or their podcast is more important.
Yeah. That's what happened with Ben Simmons,
More hours on COD than he had.
A lot of people are taking stray shots at Ben Simmons. Not necessarily for his video games, but because he's just not confident in his abilities anymore.
Yep.
And really, there's really nothing else that can be done for him. Like there's no market for him. Like
he's not a tradable kind of guy anymore.
No. Like who's gonna want him? It's like, okay, well, go to a place with like no pressure. Okay, well, let's throw in Katie and Kyrie. All right, there's a lot of pressure. But now he doesn't even have any excuses because now he doesn't have any pressure at all to win. And he still can't like get it done. So I don't know. Like I said, Milwaukee held Miami to 9 of 40 from 3. Like I said, they don't not necessarily a lot of strong 3-point shooters. I mean, yeah, Tyler Hero is like solid, but other than that, it's not like a 3-point marksman that you're afraid of anymore. I'm not afraid of Duncan Robinson anymore. He's just
I'm not either.
Same player since he signed that bag.
Yeah, I do like the Martin brothers. I know they have Cody Martin as well, but they're pretty solid guys. They could have a pretty good game here or there. I'm not a hater on them.
No.
But yeah, they just have a solid like guys who can score like 15 to 20 points. Jimmy Butler could easily drop 40 here or there, but it's not like he's got to carry them to 40 points and like a Giannis game sometimes where then everyone else is like 4 to 6 points.
And I think it is a fair question to ask. Is Jimmy Butler like that guy? Like, does he need a co-star with him?
I mean, I feel like obviously you're out Kyle Lowry, but again, Kyle Lowry's not the prime Raptors Kyle Lowry anymore.
No.
Bam Adebayo is good. He just needs to be great. I think it's hard for him because he's a center, but he's a shorter center.
Yeah.
I think if they switched like a different role and got like a bigger center and then put him at the power forward, maybe. But yeah, they just have a lot of like really good players. They don't have really great players.
Which, if you're going to win a title, that's exactly what you need. You need great players. Like, you need at least one great player like per team.
Mm-hmm. That's like the Bulls where like they signed Levine to be like their guy. And Zach LaVine is good, but he is not going to walk you through the playoffs and win you an NBA finals. It's like, again, one of those things where it's like you could beat some really good teams in the regular season, and then once you get to the playoffs, it's like they just disappear.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair question to ask. How would the Bulls be if Lonzo Ball were able to play?
So good, and I have a weird feeling his career is over because he's out for the rest of the year. He's got some knee issue that doctors have never seen before. I feel like his career is done, unfortunately.
And look,
or
the thing is
not
like,
going to be the same.
Yeah, and the thing is, we've seen that in the past too,
Mm-hmm.
where even go back to like what happened with the Blazers when they had Brandon Roy and Greg Oden,
Mm-hmm.
debilitating knee injuries that they could never recover from, and their career just ended.
Yep.
So it's a very serious thing. Okay, it's unfortunate for Lonzo because he showed a lot of promise in his NBA career, but it's one of those things where it's like there's nothing more that can be done.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of him promoting his dad's crappy shoe had to do with it. Because he wore those shoes and then they like broke, so they had to switch different shoes. So I had no idea how much that had to do with it. I understand he cut business ties, but I don't know, when you wear the ZO2 so much, man, it's just
big baller.
That's $500 shoe.
Yeah, LaMelo signing to Puma then hasn't had a knee injury like that. So
who knows? Yeah, maybe Lonzo should sign with Nike.
Fix it right up.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's unfortunate for him.
Yeah. So, all right, last topic of the day, we're just going to preview the Milwaukee Bucks against the Phoenix Suns coming up this afternoon, little Sunday afternoon matinee. So it's safe to say Giannis probably isn't playing. Kevin Durant's not playing. What do you expect from today's game?
Yeah, I was just looking up to see if the injury report is out. They said Giannis is doubtful. So that'll be a game time decision. I'm assuming he's not going to be in. I really wanted him to play just to kind of get that matchup. I'm glad that Jay Crowder had a pretty solid game. I hope he can get another 15 minutes and kind of like have a good game against the Suns just to be like, he can still do it. I think it's going to be a closer game. I'm going to obviously bias. I'm going to say the Bucks are going to win, but I think it's going to be a close game. It's going to depend on how well Drew is going to do. I think if Giannis is out, I'm going to say it's going to be about Drew and kind of Brook too, because if you can get like a solid game from Brook, I think that can go a long way.
Yep.
Those are going to be my two dark horse players for winning the game.
Yeah, and just a kind of a quick note, Kevin Durant wants to play March 1st. That's kind of the target date for him to return. So look out for that. What I expected today's game, so like I said, I don't think Giannis is going to play, but I think it's going to come down to Holiday, Middleton, Lopez, all those guys. because I do think at this current moment, while the Suns are contenders, I also think they're pretty top heavy.
Yeah.
I would say, because you got what? You got Chris Paul, you got Kevin Durant,
Booker,
and you got Devin Booker. Evan, you know what they
Ayton.
don't have? Defense. Like that's the one
They
thing.
traded them all.
That's the one thing that would concern me if I'm a Phoenix Suns fan right now. It's just okay, yeah. Right now, on paper, this is a good team. We just matched
Mhm.
three stars together. But where's our defense going to come from?
Yeah, we saw it on the Nets with Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and James Harden.
And look, Chris Paul is not the same player. He's not the same defender. He moves. He obviously, him being like an older point guard, moves at a slower pace. They used to, but he's still one of the smartest players in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
So he can still draw fouls. But having Drew Holiday on him, that's just barbecue chicken for Drew Holiday. I just think that he is he's going to lock up Chris Paul, which nowadays, as Patrick Beverly called him, he's a traffic cone. So I'm not concerned with that matchup. I'm always concerned about the bigs matchup because
Ayton is fast.
Aiden's fast, he's agile, and Milwaukee still isn't good in the painted area yet. So let's see what kind of minutes that either Brook Lopez or Meyers Leonard could provide, or even Bobby Portis is pretty good down low. So let's see what those guys can do. But I think a lot of it also is going to come down to 3-point shooting too. How's Milwaukee going to be able to shoot from three? Obviously, we know they shot pretty well the other night, but can they continue it? I think the other thing too is obviously without Giannis being in there as of right now, I think the offense is going to be not that it isn't when he's not out there, but it's like the Suns. I don't think they're going to know what hit them. Like where's the offense going to come from? So it's like we have a lot of offensive weapons out there. So so now this Phoenix has to be worried of, okay, even though Giannis probably not going to play, like who do we have to key in on?
Yeah, I think it's just going to come down of who's going to be. I don't want it to be like a 3-point challenge where it's like who just is going to hit more. It's going to come down to who's going to win the paint, and hope that if you're losing in the paint, you can hit the threes on the other end. But I think it's going to be close. It's so hard to predict scores these days because you'll pick one score and then you're like 20 points off for both teams. Where it's like, okay, well, that didn't work. But I think it's going to be an 8 to 10 point win. I'm going to put it at that. I was thinking like 119 to 111, but now it could be like 138 to 1. It's
It is impossible to predict scores in the NBA, and when we've done it, it hasn't worked. So I'm going to go ahead and say a 9-point win. I'll go with like Milwaukee 122 to 113.
Okay.
But knowing my luck, it'll be like 98 to 89 or something.
The one time where they're held under to 100.
Yeah. So Evan, you got anything else?
No. Again, matinee game, Bucks Suns, and then we come back on Tuesday.
Yep. Bucks Suns, look out for that. Play the Nets on Tuesday. Nets just took a terrible loss against the Bulls.
Yeah, like a 44-point loss, down 50 at one point. That happens to every team. It's just always the kind of games where you just want to forget about it.
No, it's always against the teams you don't expect it to be against. It's like you look at the Bulls on your schedule and you're like, oh, we can beat them. All of a sudden, they just dismantled the Nets. It happened to the Bucks earlier this year too. Against the Hornets. That was tough for me to watch. They dismantled us. So it happens sometimes, but Bucks back on Tuesday against the Nets, 6:30. Look out for that. And then look out for the game today. I believe it's at 12 p.m. ABC. So get ready for that. So, all right, this has been this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks Untapped podcast, and we'll see you next week.